1.6 Division with whole numbers. Notation. There are many ways to show division. The following all represent 10 divided by 5. Vocabulary. Quotient. The word quotient is used to indicate division. If we say the quotient of 10 and 5 is 2, then we mean 10 divided by 5 is equal to 2, or 10 divided by 5 is equal to 2. Sometimes this is also written with a diagonal, 10 divided by 2, where 10 is called the dividend, and 5 is the divisor. The meaning of division. Division is the opposite of multiplication. We can arrive at a solution to the division problem by thinking of the multiplication reasoning. For example, we could say, what is 32 divided by 8? Or we could think of it a different way, starting at the 8. What is 8 times what is 32? We know the solution must be 4 because 8 times 4 is 32. Thus, 32 divided by 8 is 4. Now, what if it's not 1 digit by 1 digit, all the ones that we've multiplied? That's when we're going to do our long division. Long division is essential and you will not have a calculator, so you need to practice. We'll start with 5. 5 is going to be on the outside, and 465 is on the inside. We don't even need this line to be that long. We want to remember that it's the n divided by the d, or you could think this is going to be by the door on the outside of the house. However you want to think about it, you want to remember that the second number is going to be the one on the outside. The very first step is you're going to ask yourself, can 5 go into 4? It cannot, so we're going to mark a little X. Can 5 go into 46? The answer is yes. Here's where your multiplication facts come into play. 9 times 5 is 45. And we're going to subtract. So first we asked ourselves what goes into the number, and then we answer the number, and then we multiply. 9 times 5 is 45, and subtract. 6 take away 5 is 1. 4 take away 4 is 0. We are then going to bring down the next number, which is 5. 5 goes into 15 3 times, because 3 times 5 is 15. When you subtract them, you get 0. I want to remind you that these numbers, like the 45 and the 15, when you multiply together, they have to be smaller than the number that you're looking at. So we had 46, we couldn't pick 10 because 10 times 5 is 50 and it's more. Has to be a smaller number, so when you're subtracting, you're not doing any borrowing or anything weird. When you get 0, that means you're finished. So 93 is our answer. Let's try another one. We have 595 divided by 7. 7 is what our divisor is, so it goes on the outside. On the inside is 595. Can 7 go into 5? No. Can 7 go into 59? It can, but only 8 times. 8 times 7 is 56. When I subtract, I have something left over. 9 take away 6 is 3. 5 take away 5 is 0. I'm going to bring down the 5. 7 goes into 35 5 times. 7 times 5 is 35. Subtract, and I get 0. So I'm done. My answer is 85. Okay, so now what is, when we do division by two numbers, how does it change? So we have 9,380 divided by 35. 35 will be on the outside, and 9,380 goes on the inside. Now I don't know about you, but I don't have my 35s memorized. So this is when I would have to think, okay, what is 35 times 1? 35. What is 35 times 2? And I might do this work on the side. 5 times 2 is 10, carry the 1, 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. I get 70. It's small, but let's check again. 35 times 3. 5 times 3 is 15, and carry the 1. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10. So 105 is more than 93. So we cannot use this one, but we can use the 2. So we know that 35 does not go into 9, but we know that 35 does go into 93, and it goes in 2 times. 2 times 35 is 70, and we can subtract. 3 take away 0 is 3. 9 take away 7 is 2. Bring down your 8. So now at this point I have 238, and I know that if I multiply by 3 I get 105. So I'm going to double up. I'm going to do 35 times 6. 6 times 5 is 30. And 3 times 6 is 18, 19, 20, 21. So I get 210. I know if I add 30 to this, it's 40. So I know it has to be 6 and not 7 times, because 7 would make it too big. So 35 times 6 is going to give me 210. When I subtract, 8 take away 0 is 8. 3 take away 1 is 2. This number is smaller than 35, so I know I'm still doing it correct. I'm going to bring down another 0. So now I need to figure out how many times does it go into 280. Well, I know 7 was 240, so we're going to try 8. 35 times 8. 8 times 5 is 40. 3 times 8 is 24, plus 4 is 280. So it's 8. So we're going to put an 8 here. 35 times 8 is 280. Subtract, and I get 0. So my answer is 268. Let's try example 3. 18 goes on the outside because it's 1,872 divided by 18. So 18 goes on the outside, 1,872. Notice I spread my numbers out. I'm not trying to squish it together. With lines, without lines, give yourself plenty of space. 18 goes into 18 one time. 1 times 18 is 18. Just because you get 0 does not mean you're done. Bring down that 7. How many times can 18 go into 7? 0. 0 times. Doesn't work, but I still have the 2, so I still have to put in that 0. 18 times 0 is 0. Subtract, and I get 7. Bring down the 2. How many times does 18 go into 72? I don't have my 18s memorized, so I pick a number. I'm going to pick something I know in my head. 8 times something will give me a 2. So 8 times 2 is 16, 3 is 24, so let's try 4, because 8 times 4 is 32, and 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3 is 7. So I get my 72, so it's 4. 18 times 4 is 72. Subtract, and I get 0. Now there's nothing left, and I got my 0, so I'm finished. And my answer is 104. So right here was the tricky part. Make sure that you're noting this. Just because that it doesn't work doesn't mean you get a 0. It doesn't mean that you're done. You just want to make sure that you finished up all of your number. Let's try a couple story problems. A family has an annual income of $35,880. How much is their average monthly income? Average monthly income, month. There are 12 months in a year. So it's asking us for 1 year of this salary, how much is each month? So if I have $35,000 and $35,880 divided by 12, I want to know what is it per month. So we have 12, and it goes into $35,880. 12 goes into 35. I do have my 12s memorized. It only goes in 2 times because it's not 36. So 2 times 12 is 24. Subtract, and I get 11. 11 is smaller than 12, so I did a good job. Bring down the 8. 12 goes into 118 9 times. 9 times 12 is 108. Subtract, and I get 10. Bring down my 8. 12 goes in 108. This is perfect, actually. 9 times 12 is 108. Subtract, and I get 0. Am I done? You should think, no, you've got another 0 there. You've got to bring down that 0. 12 goes into 0 how many times? 0 times. You have to have that place mark. It has to be the equal number of digits. So 0 times 12 is 0. Subtract, and now I got my final 0 and I'm finished. So I'm going to take this and write it as my answer. It is $2,990 per month. Now, there is some times where you get a division problem and you have a remainder, something that's left over. Suppose Darlene is making bread and using 5-pound or 80-ounce bags of flour. Her bread recipe calls for 30 ounces of flour into each loaf. See how many ounces she could get from an 80-ounce bag. She would divide 80 by 30. If she did, she would find that she could make 2 loaves, but she would have 20 ounces of flour left over. This is the diagram that they use. So the 5-pound or 80 ounces of flour, and she could make those 2 30-ounce loaves, and it would make 60, but she'd have 20 left over. Let's do it using division. So what they're saying is 80 ounces divided by 30 ounces. So we would write this as 30 on the outside, 80 on the inside. And you really want to be thinking 3 times what is going to get me a number that's closest to 8. And I'm thinking 3 times 2 works because 9 is too big, so 3 times 3 would not work. So 3 times 2 is 6, and 30 times 2 is 60. Subtract, and I get 20. Because there's nothing left here, this becomes my remainder. So we write remainder R 20. And typically you write it as a capital R, but if you use a lowercase r, that's fine too. Let's try another division problem with a remainder. So we have 1,572 divided by 23. We have 23 on the outside, and we have 1,572. Now 23 can't go into 15, and I'm not sure how many times 23 goes into 157. So I'm going to start by doing 23 times any number, pick a number. I like to usually keep my numbers as easy as possible, so I'm going to start with a 5 or a 2 usually. So 3 times 5 is 15. 2 times 5 is 10 plus 1 is 11. It's close, but it's not 157. So let's go even bigger. Let's try something really big. So let's try 23 times 8. 8 times 3 is 24. 8 times 2 is 16, plus 2 is 18. Now we're too big. So we try one more. Let's do 23 times 6. When I do 23 times 6, I get 6 times 3 is 18, and 6 times 2 is 12, plus 1 is 13. And I know if it's 138, so 30, 40, 50, but I know 8, 9, 10, 11, so it would be way more than 157. So I know that 6 has to be the smallest. We could double check that. So this is how we're going to double check that. We know it's 6. It's not 15, it's 157, so the 6 is going to go above the 7. 6 times 23 is 138. When we subtract, if the number we subtracted is smaller than 23, then we did a good job. In this case, we also have to borrow. So we have 4 and 17. 17 take away 8 is 9, and 4 take away 3 is 1. We get 19. Is 19 smaller than 23? It is. So we did a good job by picking 6. Let's bring down the 2. So now we have 192, and it looks like we have a number that's really close. We did this 23 times 8, so let's use the 8. What is 23 times 8? It's 184. Let's subtract and see if we're still on the right track. Again, I have to borrow, take 1 from the 9, and give it to the 2 to make 12. 12 take away 4 is going to give me 8. 8 take away 8 is 0, 1 take away 1 is 0, so now there's nothing left. I have a remainder. So that goes up to the top, and it's remainder 8. So 68 remainder 8 is my answer. I know that some people are going to be comfortable with writing fractions from here already, but we're not going to do that yet. When we get to fractions, we'll talk about fractions. When we get to decimals, we'll talk about decimals. Right now, this is just remainders. So now we're going to divide 1,690 divided by 67. So we have 67 on the outside, 1,690 on the inside. When we're looking at this problem, we're going to be thinking about it as how many times does 67 not go into 1, 67 does not go into 16, but 67 does go into 169, and we need to figure out how many times. So we'll do our scrap math again. 67 times, pick a number. Let's start with 2. 2 times 7 is 14. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 1 is 13. I know that if I add another 60 to this, it'll be 90, so it has to be 2. So we're going to try 2. And if we're wrong, we can always go back. So we get 67 times 2 is 134. I'm going to subtract and get 35. That number is way smaller than 67, so I'm doing a good job. Bring down a 0. How many times does 67 go into 350? That's a much bigger number than this. So let's try doubling it, maybe even going up to 5. So we'll do 67 times 5. 7 times 5 is 35. 6 times 5 is 30, plus 3 is 33. So that's pretty close to 350. We'll take it. We'll put a 5 here, and 67 times 5 is 335. Subtract. I'm going to have to borrow from the 5, make this 10. 10 take away 5 is 5. 4 take away 3 is 1. 15 is smaller than 67. I have no numbers left, so this becomes my remainder. Division by 0. Anything divided by 0 will be what we call undefined. we cannot divide by 0. So 15 divided by 0, we would just write the answer as undefined. That would be the solution. You would see this as this. A way that some people have remembered this is if you could write the word no, no is undefined because 0 is in the bottom. You cannot have 0 being what you're divided by. Okay, so you can have this one, but you can't have this one. This one's equal to 0, this one is not, okay? We're not focusing on the one that's equal to 0, though we're focusing on the one that's not. So this is undefined. It's not okay when you have 0 in the bottom to label it as anything else. It must be written as undefined. And that is division with whole numbers 1.6.